Hello, my name is David Albers. I'm one of the certified athletic trainers working on the Emotion Health program. Thank you for attending the spine mobility workshop today. A thing about the spine is a common belief is that when we move around we need to keep our spine very rigid and locked in place to keep it safe, but in reality we need to be able to move our spine and so it can conform to the activities and positions that we put ourselves in every day safely. So today we're going to take you through 4 exercises that are going to help you slow down and take control and ownership of all the segments of your spine and their motions. A couple important things to remember as we go through these exercises. First off is total body tension. What we're really wanting to do here is isolate the spine and get its segments to move independent of the other parts of your body. So keeping total body tension will help things like your pelvis and your hips from helping. Okay? The other one, or the next one, is we want you to move slow and controlled. So we're only giving you about 3 to 5 repetitions of everything, and the reason we do that is because we want you to put all of your effort into staying in control of each little movement that you do and putting all of your effort into those. The last one is look for your restrictions. As you go through some of these motions, you may find that there are certain areas that you feel tight and restricted. When you do find those, that's okay. That's when the real work begins. Those areas are the ones that we really want you to put effort into pushing more into so we can get that range of motion back. So, let's get started. Our first exercise will be trunk CARS. CARS stands for Controlled Articular Rotations. If you have had no experience with CARS before, I would encourage you to take the mobility workshop on total body CARS. So, for the trunk CARS, we're going to be moving our mid-back. And what we're going to do is we're going to do it from a kneeling position. You may also do this from a standing position. So 2 ways we can do kneeling. You can do a tall kneeling like I am, or like Rebecca is doing a short kneeling, resting all the way down on her feet. What I'm going to have you do is we're going to take our arms across the chest, and you're going to tuck your shoulders forward. You should feel some stretching in your upper back. And what we're going to do is we're going to rotate nice and slow as far as you can to the right. And then you're going to dip your right shoulder down into your hip, really opening up the left side of your ribs, and then you're going to slowly arch back, rolling over to dip your left shoulder into your left hip. Now your right rib should be open, and then you're going to return back to center. We're going to do that one more time, rotating to your right, nice and slow. Some crackling is okay. Go ahead and dip that right shoulder down, arching back. Really flex your butt muscles if you're standing or in a tall kneeling position like I am, to keep your low back from compensating, and then returning to the start. Rotating to the left now. Rotate as far as you can. Dip that right shoulder down, opening up the right ribs. Sorry, left shoulder down, opening up the right ribs. Arching back. Bringing that right shoulder down. Returning back to center. One more rotation this direction. Rotating to the left. Dipping the left shoulder, opening the right ribs. Arching back, keeping the butt flexed the whole time, right shoulders tucked, and returning back to center. Our next position, or our next exercise, is going to be a segmenting spine. So for this one, we're going to come down to all fours, and what I'm actually going to have Rebecca do is she's going to face this way so we can see what's going on in her spine. This is what we call the quadruped position. Her knees are directly under her hips. Her hands are directly under her shoulders. We have 2 positions we're going to go back and forth between. The first position is what we call the cat. So everything is pushed away as far from the floor as she can get it. She's got a nice, good arch to her back. The next position is called the cow. So now everything's pulled down towards the floor. So what we're going to do is we're going to segmentally work from one position to the next. So I'm going to have her start in cat. And what she's going to do is we're going to slowly start by rolling the pelvis forward, like she's trying to stick her butt out, and then very slowly working her way up to her low back now. So now she's trying to pull her low back spine towards the floor. And while she's doing that, she's keeping everything up here pushed away. And now she's working up to her low back, or her mid back, slowly pulling the mid back vertebra to the floor. And now she's getting up between her shoulder blades. You can see that her shoulder blades sink back, pulling back in together, and she's going to end by bringing her neck into an extended position. Now we're going to go back the opposite way. She's going to start by rolling her neck forward. Now, starting at the top, she's going to be pushing her upper back away from the floor. You can see her shoulder blades are pushing away. She's going to be pressing all of these vertebrae up towards the ceiling now. Now she's at her mid-back, going into her low back. Now towards the pelvis, and you're going to end with tucking your pelvis forward. Let's do one more of this. So think about this as you're doing it. You're in the cat position now. You're going to rock your pelvis forward like you're trying to stick your butt out. And you're going to go to your low back, sinking your low back towards the ground. Going up to your upper back, slowly sinking your upper back towards the ground. And then going up between the back between your shoulder blades, and your shoulder blades are going to sink together. And then ending with extending your neck. Okay? And then returning back the exact opposite direction. As you do this, some things you may feel. You may feel tightness along the muscles of the spine. Whenever you're fully extended or in that cow position, you also may feel like you're about to get some cramps in your low back. All that is okay, and that's just because you're accessing some muscles and motor units that you haven't accessed in a very long time. And they're not quite used to working this way. Very good. Returning to the full cat position. That was total spine. Our next exercise is really going to focus on the upper part of your spine between your shoulder blades. We are going to start in a quadruped position just like we were, but instead of staying here, what's going to happen is you're going to sit your hips back towards your heels, just like this. Okay, as far as you can. If you can sit all the way back on your heels, that's great. If not, you don't have to necessarily sit all the way back on them, just sit back as far as you can. Okay? From here, we're going to start on our left side. You're going to take your left hand, bring it up behind your head. And since your hips are sitting back, remember to keep them back because we don't want the hips or the pelvis to help us. You're going to slowly rotate, open up your ribs to point your elbow to the ceiling. You're going to find that restricted spot when you do. Really push into it. Now take your arm and just reach for the ceiling. Really, really, really reach. Bring it back behind your head and return back to the start. Let's do that one again. Rotate, open up as far as you can. Remember that you're going to find some tight spots. That's when you really push into them. Extend that arm, reach for the ceiling, and then slowly bring it back behind your head. Everything's controlled and slow, remember. Back to the start. Good. Hand down, keeping your butt back on your heels. Right hand behind the head. Rotate slowly, opening up the ribs. Keeping those hips planted on your heels. Once you hit that end range, squeeze into it, reach that arm, reach, bring the arm back behind the head, nice and controlled. Back down to the start. We're going to do one more on this side. Opening up the ribs, really rotating, find that tight spot and really push into it. Reach with that arm. You may feel some cramping along the muscles of the spine or even those muscles around your shoulder blade. Bring it right back behind your head. Nice and controlled. Return to the start. Whew. Good. So our last position and our last exercise, we're going to focus a little bit on the hips. So what I'm going to have you do, we're going to come down and we're going to sit in what we call the 90-90 base at first. So right leg forward. We're going to take our right thigh, point it to the wall that's straight in front of you. So it's really good if you can square yourself up in your room so you're facing directly towards one wall. Front leg's pointing straight at the wall in front of you. Your left leg will be pointed straight to the wall to your left. You're going to push your knees out, push your lower legs out so there's a 90-degree bend in your front knee and your back knee. From here, what I'm going to have you do is we're going to take this knee, we're going to scoot it up just a little bit, and straighten this front leg out. So this is what we call the hurdler position. In this position, you may notice that there's a lot of tightness in this hamstring in the front leg. If the hamstring is too tight to allow you to get into this position, it is okay if you bring that foot back in and perform this movement from the 90-90 base. What we're going to do from here is we're going to work on the rotation of your trailing leg. So the way this works, you're going to bring your hands in front of you. You're going to squeeze your hands together. It's going to help you generate tension through your whole body. Remember, we just want to isolate the one joint that we're moving. This back toe will be pointed. Generate your tension. Lift up this back leg. Open it up as far as you can. You're going to find that tight spot. When you do, push into it and let it back down. We're going to do a few more reps of this. Point the toe, lift up the leg, opening up the hips as far as you can. You'll find that tight spot. Really push into that tight spot and let it right back down. Lifting up the leg one more time on that pointed toe, generating tension. Do not forget to generate tension. Open up that hip and let it back down. Good. We're going to repeat this on the other side. So go ahead and switch your legs. Again, some find it easier to start in the 90-90 position, drawing that back, the trailing leg forward a little bit, and then extending the front leg. Again, if the hamstring tightness is too much to handle, go ahead and bend that knee in the 90-90 position. Hands in front, generating tension, pointing the back toe, pivoting on that toe to open up your hip, keeping that tension, opening up as far as you can, finding that position of restriction and really pushing into it, letting it right back down. So each time you do it, when I say push into that restricted point, it's like you're trying to get just a little bit further each time. Pivot on the toe, open up the hip, really push into it, and right back down. We have one more. Pointing at the toe, opening up the hip, nice and controlled and slow. Finding that restricted spot, pushing into it, and right back down. Excellent. So that wraps up our spinal mobility workshop. Thank you very much for attending. These are some exercises that we would encourage you to do on a daily basis if possible. If that is not something that is good for you at first, you can start off with just a couple days a week. Just a couple of reminders is that as you're doing these exercises, it's very important to keep tension throughout your whole body, because remember, we're trying to just work on the spine and get its individual segments under control. Second, you want to move in a very controlled manner. We're not moving around just for the sake of moving. Everything has an intent behind it. And lastly, you want to work into the restricted areas of your range of motion. So when you find those are the areas you really want to push into. If you did experience any kind of pain in the joints as you're doing these exercises, feel free to reach out to one of us on the Motion Health team. If you have any questions about mobility in general or why working on your mobility is important, or specifically your spine's mobility, please refer to the document that's attached to this workshop. Lastly, if you have not completed the Assess Your Mobility workshop or the Total Body CARS workshop, we would encourage you to do those as well. If the exercise that we did at the end about your hip, if that one was specifically challenging for you, another good workshop for you to attend would be the lower extremity. Thank you very much for attending, and have a good day.